Okay, T.B.Photo X1.5 to FX, and welcome back to another video. And this is gonna be the follow-up on, or a part of the follow-up on the 50th day at the museum. Well, summarized in one word, meh. This was a pure stunt day, or whatever you want to call it, you know. It wasn't good and it wasn't bad, it was just average. I can get that right off the bat to just, you know, be honest that it wasn't the best day of shooting for me this year at least. But anyway, well, one pro tip I could tell you right off the bat, you know, it was that when you're going to places like this, just go there nice and early to beat the crowds, because one blunder, you know, I managed to do a couple of blunders actually. One of the first one was, you know, this little Panasonic lipstick cam, you know, the HX-A1M. I had actually used this, if you remember a few videos back when I did that tabletop studio shoot of the size icon camera. I used this one as one of my cameras filming that little clip. So this was set to indoor white balance. So every clip that I filmed with this, when I got home, it turned out that everything had a really extreme blue tint to it. So I actually put as much effort I could to try to correct the white balance, but it is what it is. I didn't rely on this too heavy anyway, but I can tell you it didn't turn out that good, these videos. But what I actually did with that little camera was on Godzilla. I actually used this camera quite a lot. I used two lenses on it. This, which is the 50mm, that has the floating elements in it, so you have to, you know, the thing you do is you look through the viewfinder, and I have the prism viewfinder with the light meter in it. So what I did is that you basically go to, so you have it in focus, you look here on what type of lens you're using, and you follow that graph to see the distance, and then you change the floating elements to the correct distance as you get on this table. It's kind of a hassle, but it's also part of the charm with one of these old cameras. But basically, as you can see, I have a cold shoe right here. So what I actually did was that I taped this camera to here. So yeah, I actually got on eBay and ordered a shoe attachment so I could actually have this. If you look at, yet again, one of my hero photographers, senpai even, Jared Poland of T.B.Photo, a lot of times when he does his videos and do real world reviews, he usually has a GoPro mounted on his camera's top hot shoe. But I thought I would do the same, because you have one of the attachments with this, you can have it basically right here. But I had to improvise and use the handyman's special, as Red Green would say, and I had to use tape. But anyway, I think I'm gonna do a video later where I actually go into the darkroom. I did a video in Swedish a few months back when I developed a roll of 120 film in my darkroom, or rather the you know, where we have the washing machine and so on. That goes totally dark and so on, so I can develop my photos in the washing room. So basically, I'm thinking I'm gonna do a new one in English this time, and it might be the rolls that I shot this tour. And yeah, I also did the blunder that you know, on the D7200, this was the lens that I actually took with me. I thought that since I'm going to bring Godzilla, I need to, you know, limit space. So for the D7200, I only got the AF Nikkor 35 to 135, and this is a 3.5 to 4.5 zoom lens. So it's an older, it has a rubber, you know, light shroud on it, and This one I actually got on Swedish Tradera, which is a national version of eBay. And I got it cheap because it has a scratch on the front lens element. So that brought the price down quite significantly, but it doesn't interfere on the image quality one bit, because the only time scratches on the front element becomes an issue is if you are doing extreme close-up photography. I would have been much better off, I believe, with this, the 28 to 85. And now you may be wondering, in many of my past videos I've been talking about this lens. This is the one I film most of my stuff with. Well, I thought I'd use something different this time, and I'm using a old Soviet lens actually. It's a 50mm f2, and it's the Helios 81H that I'm currently using on my camera. But for that, so was this it was an interesting day to see, the people that were decked out in, 1950s regalia and so on, and to see how, train station masters, engine drivers, conductors, all of it, they were dressed in period costumes and so on. But the sad thing is that this is kind of a stunt day, and that means that everyone and everybody and their significant other were packing a DSLR of some sort, or point and shoot. So cameras were abundant during this little field trip, or whatever we want to call it. So yeah, whatever a train pulled into the station or whatever it was that happened, it took basically 3 seconds, and everybody with a kitchen sink were there with cameras and video cameras and tripods and boom mics and everything, basically, to try to get a decent picture in the crowd of people. So yet again, I'll take a hint from Jared Poland, excuse me. And that is basically go behind the scenes. When everybody is focused in one place trying to get a photo, you go where they're not. Find a different vantage point and tell the story from a different perspective. So yeah, so photographically this one's maybe not the best day, and thanks to the bad white balance on this camera, I didn't really get that much great video again. Minutes before I was about to leave, I did a few video clips with the D7200 as well. But since everything was handheld, it's a bit shaky and so on. I did bring the small Canon camcorder as well, but I didn't have the chance to use it because I was a one-man show at this little stunt day, or this 50s memorabilia day, so it was hard to be able to lug around, what was it, the Nikon D7200, the Panasonic lipstick camera, the Godzilla, the RB67, and I also had a fourth camera with me. It was nothing I planned to, but being with the times, I actually brought my grandfather's old, Zeiss Icon. So basically I took 2 rolls of 2 rolls of foam upon 100 ISO film with the RB67, and I did 1 roll. This takes in 6x6 centimeter, by the way. So I took 1 roll of Ilford Delta 400 with this camera. So I will basically do a video when I'm developing the film from these. And I also got this little thing that I got from Tradera once again in a bundle of old photographic equipment. It's the Zeiss Icon Photo. It's spelled IKOPHOT. It's basically a small analog light meter that still works, and yeah, I used this to meter for the old Zeiss Icon. But anyway, let's see here. Yeah, so the day in general, well, it was okay. No sunshine, it was mostly overcast, but it wasn't cold either. It was about 15 to 18 degrees Celsius, quite normal for mid-September weather in my opinion. But all in all, it was a nice day, and it was a very mixed crowd, I must say. I mean, the tuition to go into this was 100 Swedish kroner. Haven't converted it. You can do that with FedEx or whatever currency converter you want to do it with. But 100 Swedish for getting into this. So it wasn't a deal. It wasn't, extremely expensive. More of a symbolic sum. So, but basically, the people in 50s regalia were basically in the minority during this. But then there were you had people who were dressed as, goths, hard rockers, metalheads, punks, skaters, hipsters, young and old, every type, every age group was represented at this little show. So it pulled quite the crowd, actually. Well, since this day, you had to, because there were so many people going around snapping pictures at this, and people going, all around all the time, you basically had to, like that, you had to take pictures. You didn't have you basically had a 3-second rule to, frame up a good shot, get it into focus, have your settings right, and take the picture. So, of necessity, this day, when I shot with a D7200, you basically by necessity had to be at f8. Because if you were higher or lower than f8, you basically, if you missed focus, it was basically, the moment was basically gone. So you had to semi-compose the shot, have a decent shutter speed, have it set to f8. I tried to have as low ISO as possible, outdoors in this type of daylight where it was a little bit, diffused. The sunlight is diffused because it was overcast. So yeah, I've been out shooting in better light conditions before, but you have to work with what you got at these types of occasions. So yeah, this day didn't yield any bokeh-licious, pictures of any kind as such, but I think I got some semi-good pictures as well, and the pick of the day was basically this. It was the outdoor barbers. A couple of guys from a local, a little bit of a, old school, old-fashioned barber shop, I think it's a combination barbershop tattoo parlor, and they did outdoor hairdressing and so on, and, beard trimmings and so on. So yeah, that was basically it, and I managed to, when I found places where it wasn't so crowded, you basically could do a few HDR shots as well, but it basically was very difficult to not have other photographers in the foreground and background. And it becomes a little bit disconcerting when people actually go around with iPads snapping photos at these events. Okay, I get the point. But if you really want a great picture, I would say still a real dedicated camera does the better job. But basically this day didn't yield any great portfolio pictures. Digitally, I haven't seen the film rolls I've taken yet, because I plan to do a separate video about those when I'm, doing it in the the dark room, I should say, and do all with the development and so on. So basically, it was a mixed bag of a day. All in all, I would say it was quite the good one, but meh. So basically, this is Tobias Bergstrom from T.B.Photo X 1.5 to FX, and I would like to see you guys in the next video. Take care from now on. Bye.